Welcome, everyone. I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes here and let people start filtering in. As people are making their way in, I want to thank everyone. And yes, audio and video is disabled. If you have any questions, um, uh, please go into the chat or Q&A, either one. I'll kind of be monitoring both. And I'll go ahead and share this. We'll have a Padlet as well. Any ideas that you might want to share, things that you've done in your classes, or have found to be helpful in teaching foreign languages in online settings, you can share there. I think I've already shared one resource out there from Bethany, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. We'll give it just a couple, another minute or so, let everybody filter in. Okay. Oh, the link is not working. Oops. Okay. Is it working now, Harriet? Make sure I got the right link in there. You're perfectly, thanks for letting me know. If it would have not have been working, that'd have been useful information, so no problem. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started and go over some housekeeping real quick, and then we'll get into our presentation. So first up, the Padlet. If you didn't see the link already, I'll throw it in once more. And this is, if you've never used a Padlet before, it's just a way to share kind of a brainstorming resource. Wanted to give everyone the ability to kind of share ideas, things that they've done, maybe they have found success with as well. Um, uh, and use that as a resource. There's also a post on there that says Starbucks, and so to help encourage people to share and share with each other, anyone who goes into the Padlet and shares will be entered. We'll give away several Starbucks gift cards for participation. So just whenever you go in and make a post in the Padlet, just kind of include your email address in there, and that way I can send that out to you. So today's webinar is teaching foreign language online and trying to master that learning language in the digital age. As we all know, it can be stressful and trying at times to come up with materials and come up with designs for teaching and administering assignments to students, especially online and especially in foreign language classes. So we wanted to have two of our instructors who use Harmonize that we have seen amazing results with. They've had classes where they've had a lot of participation and engagement with their students, and have them come in and kind of share some of the things they have found to be successful. With me today, I have Bethany Thompson, and she is with Victor Valley College, right? I always want to, California is one of those weird states. North Carolina is where I'm at, and we're all community colleges. And then California, I think they might have like 3 or 4 that actually have community in the name. But she's with Victor Valley College. And then we also have Nancy Perez, who is Dr. Nancy Perez, and she is with University of Michigan, but she is actually right now in Costa Rica teaching a class abroad, and so we thank her for joining us overseas. I just kind of give everyone a little bit more background. I know I just introduced you, but maybe Bethany, starting with you, if you want to tell a little bit more about your background.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bethany. My background is I teach part-time at the community college, and I've been there for about, it was way too long. I don't know, 10, 15 years. And I've been teaching online for about the last 5 years, exclusively just teaching online since COVID. I don't know if there's anything else you want me to say.
In
I
what
teach
language?
French. I teach
Yeah, there
French.
you. And Nancy?
I've also been teaching about 15 years at U of M. I'm a linguist by training. So I've also taught some American English pronunciation. But I mostly teach in person, but because of COVID, we've started to do more online. All of our summer programs are now online. And we still have some online components.
And do you only teach Spanish, Nancy, or do you teach any other languages?
Oh, I only teach Spanish. Yep.
I would imagine that that is not common. There's probably not a lot of instructors that can teach multiple languages. Is that probably fair to say?
Actually, we have a fair number of people in our department who teach um, French and Spanish or Italian and Spanish. Actually,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Well, there you go. Learn something new for me. So, like I said in the beginning, one of the reasons why we asked both of you to come in is because we had seen through um, our program, Harmonize, that you guys have both had classes and assignments where you had high engagement with the students, a lot of replies and back and forth. And so, wanting to kind of find out what you're doing, how you're doing those things, some of the tricks that you uh, come up with to get engagement higher. And so, want to go ahead and start with Nancy. Can you kind of walk us through a little bit about how you come up with different assignments? What do you use, and give us a little background there?
I do feel like in Spanish we're a little bit spoiled. I know for a lot of other languages, there are less materials out there. But for Spanish, we have a lot open to us, so we tend to adapt a lot of assignments that we have in our textbooks. And one of the ones that we use with Harmonize are discussion posts, where the students are actually posting videos. So they're given a prompt where they're focusing on a particular grammar or vocabulary point, and given a prompt in English that sort of elicits from them what we're looking for. And then the nice thing about Harmonize is that we can require students to comment, which is really a nice feature. We often, standard workload for us is 3 courses a semester. So we'll often have 54 students per semester, and Harmonize makes it really easy for us to manage 54 student entries. And then the comments coming from 54 students, Harmonize does a lot of auto grading, which makes it easy for us to go in and manage. And we find then that it's kind of nice. You can go in and look at their comments, and you can see who's more engaged and who's not. And Harmonize will also let you know who hasn't been engaging, which is really nice. I'm not sure. We've used it for written assignments as well. It just works really nice to sort of get the students communicating between themselves, and we can sort of pull ourselves out of it as the instructor so that they feel that it's more of a space for them to interact. So it's less, it feels lower stakes for them. They're less nervous to interact than they are when sort of the instructor's hovering over them interacting.
So as far as like, we hear a lot sometimes about building community within the online, online courses. Is there anything you're doing specifically around trying to build that community with all those students?
Yeah, so the sample activity that we that I gave to show is a type of activity that helps build the community. So it asks the students to talk about their favorite t-shirt, for example. And so you'll get students, some of them will put up just their University of Michigan t-shirt, which is kind of boring, but others will put up, political action shirts or shirts from their favorite places that they've visited, which gets the students to interact on a more personal level. And then, there's ones where they have to talk specifically about what's your favorite place to visit or where would you like to visit? And then they'll start connecting personally. Oh, I've been to that place, or oh, I really want to go to that place in the target language. And once again, because we're not a part of it, it feels the connections I think are stronger because it feels less forced. It's not the teacher forcing them to talk. They're they know it's a spot just for them to interact. Sort of low stakes without the pressure of sort of the in-class environment on them.
Awesome. So Bethany, kind of the same questions there. So can you tell us a little bit about how you've gotten the engagement up in your classes, and what you found has worked?
I've a similar approach. The students, I try to choose topics where they're talking about something that is personal to them. I tell the students at the beginning of the year that the harmonized space is the place where it feels most like a regular classroom because they'll be talking to each other and responding to each other. And so I tell them in that space, for me, I'm also very specific that it's one of the places where I am looking for errors. Not errors like to correct them, but I'm looking to see where they are in their language journey as they're learning. So I'm looking to see what they're still learning and what errors they might still be making so that I know if there's any more supports that I need to give to them. So I don't, I tell them specifically that I'm not expecting perfection or perfect sentences or anything like that. I prefer for them to just go in and type the answer rather than trying to make it as perfect as possible in that space because I want it to feel like a place where they can easily make mistakes and show their learning. But I do try to choose, same as Nancy said, topics that are going to build a community. And then I ask them to respond to each other, to reply at least 3 times to somebody else during the module or the week. And I will oftentimes just give them, because I'm teaching first semester, so I will give them the words to respond to somebody like, oh, that's cool. I love that. Me too. Just so that they're able to acknowledge and show that they read what somebody else said.
Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. I love the idea that you're communicating that up front. Now, do you do that through just a part of the instructions, or you create a video of yourself speaking that, or how do you relay that?
That information, I actually do it, but I try to meet with the students at the beginning of the semester online, even though it's a fully online class. I have them come meet with me during a Zoom. I do it, and that's one of the things that I'm very. I want them to hear from me, so I just say it out loud. I'm expecting to see mistakes here. I'm expecting to hear mistakes here. You're not perfect, and I need to hear those so I know what you still need support in. So I do that there. I also have it in the syllabus, and then I also have it several times throughout the course. Just a reminder that I'm expecting to see and hear mistakes. Because if I see something that's perfect, at least for me, that indicates that it might not be their true. It could be an example of not their true language. Like they might be trying to do too much.
You also mentioned to me, I believe, that you like to go in and react, maybe not full on conversation, but to give them encouragement, give them a reaction within the discussion. Can you speak a little bit more why you do that and how that's helped in the class?
So I go in, the students have two due dates. They have when their initial post is due. And on that day, I will go in and I will read every post, and then I'll just choose. I think there's 4 reactions on there, like this is helpful, me too, or something. There's 4 reactions on there, and I'll just choose one of those and react, and just to show that I read it. Like, all I want them to know is that I personally saw their answer. I don't necessarily respond to each kid other than in the very first time they do, I do respond to each student's the very first assignment. But after that, I won't necessarily respond to every single post. I will go in and put a little mark there. You just put the reaction. It helps me know that I actually saw the post, because they all kind of blend together, especially with a lot of students. Like, did I read that kid's answer or not? So then I know, oh yeah, I saw it. And then if there's anything I need to respond to, like I think they might be trying too hard, or they might have used too much of either the Google Translate or even AI at this point, then I can go in and send them a private comment about that.
Awesome. I love that reaction kind of strategy that you're using. That it helps you keep track, but then also it gives that encouragement without you having to go in and add to the conversation. Yeah, so we had a question: can the speakers show how their ideas are materialized and harmonized? I would love for them to do that, but there's privacy concerns with them sharing their actual classrooms. So I'm sharing right now a sample of their classrooms. We just want to protect the privacy of the students. But maybe that's a good segue into kind of what outcomes have you seen through some of these strategies that has helped feed the outcomes in the class?
I think, David, what we're seeing is your desktop. We're not seeing the harmonized activities right now.
Oh, I apologize. Are we seeing it now? Okay, I apologize about that. My bad. Thank you. Okay. So outcomes. What type of outcomes have you seen that have been positive through these interactions, these discussions, and these activities?
I think for me, because most of the time I'm using it in conjunction with in-person classes, is that it really has helped build community, which has been a bigger focus for us since COVID. So they have made connections that we don't necessarily have time to make in the classroom. They've been able to do through Harmonize, which comes out in and I'm sure everybody here knows that if your students are not comfortable speaking and taking risks around each other, then they won't. You can't learn a language unless you are using it and taking those risks. So we have been able to see that they're better risk takers in the classroom environment because they've been forming a better community overall.
Bethany, do you see any correlations? Because you both said you like using everyday conversations. Talk about your favorite T-shirt, talk about your routine. Do you see that as a correlation that it helps them in becoming more fluent in the language and speaking it more naturally than just academically?
I don't. I would have to say yes for sure, that it does, because usually my my discussion posts, they're also linked to something that they're doing next. And so I do believe that, like, interconnecting the types of assignments that they're doing, that those do lead to better outcomes for the students. So yes.
Nancy, I know that at Michigan, you guys do a lot of peer review as well, specifically around using video. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that's progressed at University of Michigan?
I haven't actually done a lot of peer review with video. Michelle might have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I have not done a lot of peer review.
But they are speaking, like if they post a video, they do respond in the video, and kind of give feedback sometimes, maybe not specifically peer review.
They give comments to each other, but they're not really sort of reviewing their language per se.
Got it.
Yeah. I will, if you know, if they're making a really consistent error, then I might make comments on the language. But I do try and keep it more of a sort of safe space where they can feel free to say or comment as well, whatever they'd like. You know, along the same vein with Bethany, I want them to feel like they don't need to go to AI in that space, right? Because it is just about them communicating, and it's not about perfection or me, the instructor, sort of policing how they're interacting.
Got it. Bethany, you were mentioning just actually right before we jumped into the webinar that you're actually using Go React, which is another ed tech tool for some upcoming classes, and you're trying some different things. What successes have you found, like using videos within teaching online?
Well, since my classes now are fully asynchronous, what I'm having them do is they are trying to talk to somebody else. And so they're using the video to do that. And I've used the video in Harmonize, and then I've also used the video in Go React. And the students will record whatever question I've asked them to talk about, and then they'll go back in and in an ideal assignment, they'll listen to somebody else's recording and then ask some questions to that person based on whatever the topic is. And then they will go through and listen to some other videos and then do a little bit of writing about what they learned about their classmates. So that's how I'm using the videos kind of at the moment. It's for a listening activity and then also as a interpersonal communication.
Is there a particular reason why you think that is more successful than just the written communication? Is there anything there that you're seeing that helps them specifically with certain styles or certain learning techniques that they need to master compared to just, like I said, the written?
Well, I think just because one of the things that's very different about language is that we do have different modes of communication, and interpersonal, both speaking and writing, are one of the modes that we assess and are part of our standards. It's necessary to have a way that they can speak and that they can record that and then listen to that. So I don't know if it's necessarily better or helps their learning any other way. It's just a different type of learning that they have to do because it is part of learning a language.
Right. I saw somebody say amen there. I think the key there is that both parts are important, right? That's the key. You need to know how to read and write in a language, but also how to communicate it verbally. A lot of talk around AI. Nancy, I was wondering what type of challenges are you seeing around AI in foreign language classes, and what have been some of your strategies around that, either helping the students or trying to find ways to limit the use of it?
Yeah, so Bethany had mentioned about letting them know, you know, if we see that in your Spanish 101 and you're using conditional, okay, well, that might be a tip off. But one activity that we did with one of our upper level courses, which I thought was kind of nice, was we actually took a class where we took them into a chat bot, and we had them interact with the chat bot, asking it to give them predictions about their future, where they were asking questions that were more than just yes or no, and they had to sort of react and have a conversation with the chat bot. And they started off by sort of giving it parameters. I'm an intermediate Spanish learner, and I would like to practice. And then at the end of it, receive feedback. And then they had these conversations for 10 minutes, and then they could ask the chatbot, can you give me feedback? As a way to sort of show the students sort of the right way, or one right way to use the tool, to give them help in a way that's way more personalized, that we don't have time for in the classroom, right? I can't go around, and have a 10-minute conversation with every student whenever they want, and then give them feedback. And I think a lot of them were kind of shocked that, oh wow, this is okay, I can do this. So that was one thing we did that I thought worked really nicely. But yeah, it is a problem when we have switched a lot of our assessments that we might have done online, we've gone back to doing in class, so that we can sort of eliminate, which does not help if you have an asynchronous course or a completely online course, which is something that we're dealing with our spring courses. Yeah.
Well, Bethany, you are completely asynchronous. So kind of the same question. What are some of the strategies that you guys have been using for AI?
So I think when we're talking about languages, it's not just AI. That we've had the Google Translate around for quite a while. We've been dealing with these same issues for probably at least in a decent way 10 years. I have started in my classes really focusing on what learning I am expecting the students to demonstrate in that activity. So I have added to, and I didn't send you the example, but I have added to, I am adding to all of my assignments, just this assignment, I am expecting you to demonstrate this learning. I can ask someone their name and say my own. That's it. So that it's very clear. I think for me, I think students over rely on the Google Translate and the AI because they think that they should be like fluent after 3 weeks of online asynchronous French class, and they want to be able to say what they can say in English. And so for me, it's a matter of one, making it very clear what learning I'm expecting them to demonstrate, because then it's an easier conversation to have with the student. You were unable to demonstrate to me that you could say, how are you? You wrote a really lovely paragraph here, but you were unable to demonstrate that you could even say, how are you? And then two, I think it puts the students at ease about what they are expected to learn. Of course, I am only teaching first semester classes. I'm not teaching advanced level classes. So I'm really dealing with beginners. But those are the two things that I have focused on. And then this last semester, I started explicitly teaching what I felt were my guidelines for online translators and artificial intelligence, which are on there. So I have an assignment that they do, it's basically direct instruction and then some checking for understanding, where I tell them, like, here's the things that the online translator can do well. Here's some things it doesn't do well. Here's okay ways to use it. Here's not okay ways to use it. Same thing for the AI. And then I give them scenarios and ask them to, say whether or not that's an appropriate scenario there. And then I have started attaching one of these two images here that David's displaying, so that the students know it's okay to use the AI for these things on this assignment or the online translator, or for an assessment, it is not okay to use it in any form. So that's what I've been doing. I feel like at least the students have a better understanding of what they are able to use those tools for, because they are amazing, and can really help with the students' language learning, but they also can over rely on them, and that's when it becomes an issue.
Yeah, I love these images. When I saw it, I was like, can I, do I have permission to share these out? Because I love these. I think it's a great way just to let the students know right off the bat, okay, here we want you to use extra tools to let that be a learning aid, but here we don't want you to use any at all. Bethany, you also shared with me a different type of assignment that you guys are doing, just around trying to teach AI literacy, almost is the way I kind of looked at it. Talk us through a little bit about that assignment.
Well, I think that assignment, the AI literacy, is the one that I was alluding to earlier,
Okay.
so that the students learn a little bit about what the AI can do. This assignment that you have, this was actually, or not assignment, but this was something that I did for a webinar on AI, and I had some different tools that the participants were exploring. And so the participants in this we're exploring these different tools, and these are mostly teacher tools for AI. I have had students use a chatbot a little bit. There's a couple of chatbots that I have had the students use if in order to try to accomplish a specific task, but yeah.
And I got a little confused. I thought this was for students. I could actually see this being used as an assignment for students, though, as a different way to have them interact and do things like that. What have both? This is for either one of you. But what is the biggest frustration right now? And kind of solutions that you've looked at around the translators and the AIs, like what's that one key thing that maybe you would want to share out with other instructors that you've learned when it comes to having students not rely so heavily on these tools?
Well, I'll start. I just think I think we as instructors, and Nancy talked a little bit about this, like changing some of our assignments, but I think it's really important that we're very clear on what the learning is we are expecting to see from whatever it is that we're doing. Because by being very clear with ourselves about what we're expecting, it's much easier to give the student the target that they're aiming for. And I think if the student is clear on the target, they're able to reach the target. And they're gonna be less likely to try to use different tools to bring in to kind of augment themselves or bring up their language to some target that they have in their head. So I think as teachers, if we're specific about the learning target, and we are able to clarify that for the student, that's one thing that we can do in order to teach in this new world.
Nancy?
Yeah, I really agree with what Bethany is saying. And I try to, let my students know when an assignment is low stakes, an at-home writing assignment, the purpose is for you to just write in the target language. And so we'll make assignments that are for completion. Did you write in the target language? And that's what matters here. And like I said, because currently our semester-long courses are still in person, then we have pulled the assessments back to in person where we can, because it is such an issue. I think it's something that we're just still fighting with, and we'll be fighting with.
I don't think it's going away. I just noticed we got a couple of questions in the Q&A. I was monitoring chat more, so I apologize for those that were asking questions in the Q&A. I kind of missed that. Is there a way to anonymize discussion posts to classmates, but instructors can see who said it? I don't, not in a graded discussion, but in our for Harmonize, in our Q&A boards, there is a way to allow students to ask anonymously. Do either one of you know if there is a way to do that?
I thought that there was a way that you could make the posts anonymous, I thought. I mean, obviously, if it's a video, that doesn't help, but I thought the written post could be anonymous. I thought that was one of the setting options.
Let's see the post settings.
But maybe that was for comments.
Oh, here we go. Post and comments always show user's identity. So you can actually, yes, you can. So anonymous settings, you can do that in Harmonize. So that is a setting there. So mark that as answered live. I remember sitting in a room with tapes for hours. How do language labs work now? Is it all in the modules now? So language labs question there, I guess, for either Bethany or Nancy.
Yes, they're just all online now. So students can do the listening, or I mean, that's what you would probably be doing in a language lab, was listening, and maybe a little bit of practice speaking, and they would just do that online. Whether, at least in my class, we do it all online.
Yeah, the textbooks, once again, I'm coming from Spanish, and I know, and I've taken languages that don't have all the resources that we have in Spanish. So I know that I'm coming from a place of privilege when I say our textbooks have come with these incredible activities online that sort of take care of that for us.
I was going to say, not only, those activities and textbooks, but even for French, I would imagine there's probably a lot on YouTube that you can gain as resources. Just, hey, watch this movie in French or watch this TV show in Spanish, and just use that as a listening exercise. So yeah. So next question. Let's see. I think it might be a good idea to encourage participation. I'm not sure what that was in reference to. So maybe Harry, if you want to give us a little bit more context there. What level of language learning are you dealing with? Do you have more conversational classes? I know, Bethany, you said you're 100% first semester, but Nancy, what level of students are usually taking your classes?
So all of our spring summer classes are now online, but it is all the way up through 5th semester.
Wow.
But we still try and use a communicative method the whole way through. So there's an awful lot of, breakout rooms and students trying to sort of have conversations online, which, depending on the students, can go in a breakout room and there's just one student sitting there, which is kind of disheartening. Yeah. So we try and keep it conversational. Yeah.
So what has anyone on here? So I'm guessing this is a question for any of the guest attendees as well. Has anyone worked with teaching a language with a non-Latin alphabet, and how many alphabets are supported? I'm assuming that is a question about Harmonize. For Harmonize, we do have, as far as closed captioning, we have English, Chinese, Mandarin, Hindi, Spanish, French, Arabic, Russian, Portuguese, Indonesian, Italian, German, and Japanese that we support. As far as closed caption, I believe all of the keyboards are supported the same. But I would imagine a lot of these teaching practices are very similar as far as the teaching practice, but with a non-Latin alphabet. I don't know if either one of you could speak to maybe a colleague that maybe you've seen do something a little bit different than what you're doing in French and Spanish.
I've studied Korean, but Canvas, we use Canvas at U of M, and that worked just fine with Hangul.
Okay.
And that's mainly what we used was Canvas.
And then another question here in the chat, and I'm going to put this to both of you. I try to not make this necessarily about Harmonize. It's more about teaching foreign language online, but there was the question, how is Harmonize better than just using Canvas for teaching for languages? So if either one of you want to speak to maybe some of the things that you like about Harmonize compared to just using the Canvas discussions and assignments.
I'll talk to that. I think, at least for me, because again, I'm teaching my first semester, level 1 brand new students. Canvas discussions is just too stuffy and formal. I mean, they're not making a discussion post. Like if they say, I like carrots, and somebody says, me too, we've had a successful exchange of ideas and a conversation there. And so I do like that Harmonize feels, at least for me, less stuffy. The students can add those reactions. It's a little bit easier to see the comments and go through that. So that's one of the reasons. I don't know that it's better. It's just a different interface that students will see when they're interacting with their classmates.
And I can say that a typical semester with 54 students, not having to go in and manually grade, not having, so, and I didn't use Canvas discussions, but I used the textbook discussion function. And if I wanted to make sure that each student commented on 3 different posts, I had to go through every post and manually tick mark next to the student every time I saw their comment. And with Harmonize, I don't have to do that. It automatically knows that the student made 3 comments, which when you have 54 students is huge. So you can go in and spot check, and you can still do all the checks if you need to, but if you don't have time, you don't have to go through, 54 times 3.
Yeah.
So in that respect, I found it to be way better.
And we also offer on auto grading. If you're, I know it was said earlier, you're looking for the errors, right? You're not really you want to see where they're missing out. So really what you're only wanting is to see the conversation back and forth, and turning on auto grading is a nice feature there. Then you don't even have to even go in and grade. It'll grade for you as long as they're participating and that engagement's happening. So that's another.
That's what we used, is auto grading.
Yeah,
we did auto grading, and we could set it so that if it was a 10-point assignment, 6 points or 7 points was the post, and then there was a point for each comment. And then, you can go back at your leisure, and if you feel like somebody didn't fulfill the prompt, you can remove points. But as a base, everybody who did the assignment, and once again, going back to, what we had said earlier about low stakes, they did the assignment, they get the points.
Right, and we'll just check and see here. Mila said, I wish I had online learning labs. Okay, I think classmates might more readily participate if their comments were anonymous, but instructors need to know who said what. Yes, that it can at times. Well, let me not respond to that. What are your thoughts about allowing anonymous posting and commenting within these assignments? Is that something that you've ever done, or do you see a benefit to it or not?
I haven't ever chosen I haven't ever done the anonymous posting. I also haven't ever really found that students have been reluctant or hesitant. They all seem to be very comfortable posting. And I also, in the syllabus, I also have something that says, like, you can make up whatever you want. If you tell me your dad's Jay-Z and your mom's Beyonce, I'm not going to go fact check this. So I also want them to know, like, I'm not going to go make sure that that's what they said is true. but I haven't ever experienced where I've had a student say, "Oh, I'm reluctant to share something in the chat or anything like that."
Yeah, I haven't used the anonymous commenting feature either. Mostly because I think if they do connect, I don't want it to be anonymous when somebody says, "Oh, I've been to that place too." I want them to know who the other person is so they can connect.
Yeah, I would imagine we do allow it. I think if the ideal situation for the anonymous posting would be if there was a situation where you maybe you were wanting to dig deep on a personal level and have them share a personal experience that maybe they didn't want to make it be identifiable back to them. I could see that being a reason for the anonymous posting. Um, what I will share, Harriet, is another feature that we have is the ability to make um, an assignment private between the student and instructor. So um, if you want to have them submit something where you're going to give them feedback and it's going to be between you and the student, um, but not necessarily something that the entire class needs to see. You actually have that ability to do that either from the beginning or do it at the end of the assignment and go in and make it private between you and the students. So that is a feature that can also be used to make it more anonymous in your reply, if not from the student's reply.
And we actually use that for we did sort of students evaluated their own class participation, and we used the milestones so that throughout the semester they would sort of they answer some questions about, how were they contributing to the classroom environment, how did they think that they could better contribute with some more pointed questions, were they using any English, that type of thing. And because it was one assignment with different milestones, but it was private between, me and the students, then at the end I could see all of their comments and compare how they thought they improved over the semester, which was also a nice feature.
Just so that people can understand that. So as the students, when they come in to an assignment and it's marked private between student and instructor, they would only see their post. And if this was like what Nancy was saying, they made 4 posts over the course of the semester, then they would see their 4 posts. But as the instructor, you would see the 4 posts times 20 students that would be in your class or how many students. And so you would be able to see all of the different posts or all the different comments, but the student would only see their own. So that's how that would be set up.
And when you go into the speed grader in Canvas, you would see just the students for most of their so you can read their sort of their progress in one spot.
Yeah, we've actually, there's another webinar we did with University of Rochester, and they use that same feature as a capstone project for their nursing students. And so as that project goes throughout the semester, the instructor can see the progress they made from the beginning to the end. So very similar there. So we have different uses for it in different ways, but kind of the same concept. You're seeing the evolution of that throughout the semester. So Harry said, okay, thanks. I'm more thinking about trying to encourage talking in Spanish or writing and getting input from classmates. You could, Harriet, with Harmonize, use the anonymous feature. And then, as they said, if you want to have them speaking, the video would give away who they are, but you could have them do audio. So Harmonize also offers audio features. So in addition to, just going to add a comment here. So you have audio record, screen record, and then a video recording, and that would be another way is do a screen record, screen capture, if you will, so that they will be talking over something they're presenting, so that you wouldn't necessarily see their face, or if they were anonymous, you wouldn't know who they were, but you would be able to listen and hear them.
And I just thought of a neat idea that might be nice to use using the milestones is if they did maybe weekly reportings on a certain topic. Um, then at the end of the semester, they can go through and compare their first and their last. Like if it's all in one assignment, then it's easy for the student to navigate. And then they could
Yeah.
reflect on their own learning and see, where, how far have I come? What, you know, sort of that where they're sort of in charge of their own learning and accountable to themselves for how far they've come. And it's always nice to see their faces light up when they see how far they've come. So milestones might be a nice way to sort of track that for students.
Yeah, I'm doing some shameless plugging here. We also had a webinar earlier this year on English, teaching English online, and they were doing journaling. So every week, private between student and teacher journaling activity, auto graded it. Instructor didn't care; they just want to see them journaling. I could see the same thing. Hey, just come in and write every week this many words in Spanish or in French, and just journal yourself in that language, and then at the end of the semester they can go back and look and see how they progressed. Just another idea that popped in my head from that earlier webinar. So a lot of activity in the questions and chats. Let me just make sure that would be a neat idea. Compare early and later expressions. All right, Harriet, thank you for that. Any other last questions? I feel like we've had a lot of participation in this webinar, which is great. While we wait to just see if there's any last questions, Bethany and Nancy, any last parting nuggets of wisdom or insights that you might want to share?
I can't think of any.
You're like, we've been at it for 50 minutes, David. Let's. What were the resources that you used to create those graphics, the translator and AI? Question from Abby.
I used Canva to create those.
Canva. She meant, I mean, the information.
The information came from my head, sort of. I attended a ACTFL webinar on AI. No, it wasn't ACTFL. It was one of the resource centers on AI and education, probably like back in late January. And the man who did the webinar was so fantastic, and he had some great ideas. So I took what the resources that he shared, and then I added my own ideas and what I felt was okay for the kids to use AI with, and then I just made it up. So it was partly him and partly ideas from my brain.
I will I'll give a little bit of an update here for those of you that use Harmonize currently. This is our next release, big feature release. AI coaching. We don't want to give students detailed feedback, but that's not what we think is helpful. But what we are offering is if you use a rubric in your assignment, that depending on if you allow it and how many times you would allow it, the students could then scan their work against the rubric coach. And then the feedback would be, well, on these standards in the rubric, you either have much improvement to make, or hey, you're looking good. You're getting an A based on that criteria. So that is our next big feature release. We currently already help instructors create rubrics. So this rubric that I created here was created with AI, and we help build prompts through AI as well. So those are some features that are available or coming available. We also have a webinar coming up in, I believe it's July. Our CEO Marcus will be speaking about the AI coach and different AI features. And don't have a date yet, but I think this is going to be an exciting one for a lot of people. Is we've got 2 instructors, one from George Mason University and one from University of Alabama Birmingham, who both teach algebra and have had some of the highest engagement scores throughout Harmonize. 100 plus interactions per assignment. I mean, these are crazy, and for it to be math classes, just incredible. So be on the lookout for that webinar coming up. I know we try to do these subject specific webinars, but I also feel like a lot of these webinars you can get ideas no matter what your subject is. There's just good ideas, and so if you want to go back and watch like the English or the nursing ones, they're available on Harmonize website. So check those out and then sign up for future webinars. All right, don't see any other questions. Did I miss anything? All right, I think we got everybody. If we didn't get a question answered, please let me know, and we'll address it before we head off of here. But otherwise, I think we're good to go. Thank you so much, Bethany and Nancy. Really love the insight that you bring and the great things you're doing in your classes. And thank you so much for sharing it with all of us. We will see you on the next webinar, everyone. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day. Try to get right here.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. That was great.